The Oklahoma City Thunder's young squad made a huge splash in this year's playoffs. While they ended up getting knocked out in the second round, I think it's safe to say that the young core of SGA, Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, and a lot of key role players have surpassed the expectations set for them at the start of the season in a seemingly stacked Western Conference. Not only did they earn first seed in the West, which is a massive accomplishment in itself, but they looked red hot at the start of the playoffs. In their first round matchup against the Pelicans, it wasn't even close at 4-0, despite the Pelicans actually being considered somewhat of a sleeper team to have a good playoffs. The first game was actually pretty close, with the Thunder winning by only 2 points. Sadly, after everyone on the Pelicans realized that Zion wasn't going to play and couldn't even get it together for one playoff series, it was really over at that point before it began. Nonetheless, impressive 4-0 for a young team like the Thunder. Next round wouldn't be so easy though. They matched up against an equally red-hot Dallas Mavericks, who had knocked out a much tougher opponent, the LA Clippers, in 6 games even after losing their first. OKC actually won the first game of the series. After that point though, things started to fall apart and it became obvious that there were some pretty big holes in the team. Josh Giddey especially just couldn't get it done, playing 11 minutes in a Game 2 loss, 13 minutes in a Game 3 loss, 12 minutes in a Game 4 win, despite starting all of those games. That's a tough look. He then got benched for Games 5 and 6 while playing similar minutes. We'll do a deeper dive into Giddey in the second half of this video, but to put it simply for now, it's looking like he's out the door. Giddey isn't the only hole in the team though, and he could be traded to fill another huge hole that's been exposed in the Thunder for all to see this playoffs. The fact that they don't have a proper big man that can rebound. Chet has done a great job filling in at center, and he's even somewhat of a block menace off and on, but everyone knows Chet isn't a natural center. He might be tall, but that's not his game. He's a skinny dude and he's pretty comfortable on the perimeter. Now, don't get me wrong, playing Chet at the center can be incredible depending on the matchup, and should be done regularly to create nasty mismatches. However, he's not a strong rebounder and likely never will be elite at it without bulking up. The thing is that not every player in the NBA has to bulk up. Look at KD. At his height, he could have absolutely played center if he bulked up. You wouldn't want that though, knowing what he's accomplished as a forward that honestly plays like a shooting guard sometimes. Chet and KD are different in their own ways, and Chet is a few inches taller, making him fit the center role a bit better than someone like KD. Ultimately though, a lot of Chet's strength lies in his versatility and shooting ability at his height, which shouldn't be limited to only playing center. A big need is someone that can bang in the paint for rebounds, which honestly won't be tough to find. There are tons of big men ready to slot into any team and give you 10 rebounds a night, which is really all the Thunder need considering that the team would be pretty tall with Chet on the court as well as Shea, who's pretty tall for a point guard at 6'6", and there's already plenty of scoring to go around. The only problem is that the Thunder have gotten pretty good with this lineup in an era that seems to be wide open for teams to win chips. Given that they got pretty close to making a conference finals appearance, you really don't want to mess with the development of the main 3 in Shea, Chet, and Jalen Williams. These 3 really seem like the future of the team going forward. This leaves one man to go really, Josh Giddey. While his stock is low, he's young and people know he has potential. On top of this, luckily the Thunder still have an entire treasure trove of picks with 11 first-round picks in the next 4 years. So might as well package Giddey with some of those many picks to get a big man who lives in the paint, and maybe some nice depth pieces.
Now it's time to talk about the Giddler. Giddey is coming off a very horrible playoffs, finishing out that Mavericks series shooting a total of 3 for 16 from 3, and his play in the prior series pretty much made him unplayable, as he went from averaging 25 minutes in the regular season down to only 12 minutes a game against Dallas. However, despite Giddey's sharp decline, the Thunder still looked good, just as we mentioned, missing a true center and a reliable rebounder. Previously, Giddey could somewhat be reliable to get you at least 6 boards a game, but again, this year it seems like we're kind of past that point now, with all roads looking like they lead out of OKC for Josh Giddey. But it wasn't always this way, as just last season it had seemed like he was going to be an essential piece to whatever the Thunder were building towards. When Giddey first came into the league after being the 6th overall pick in 2021, he seemed like he was going to be a very impressive player. His shooting was probably always going to be a problem, but the sheer potential in every other department made up for that fact. Plus now between Shea and Jalen Williams, they didn't really need Giddey to be a scoring machine. But after this year's playoffs and really the entire regular season, it seems like he's definitely had a major regression from his previous years, and therefore not really fitting any role on this OKC team. Obviously, this has been a little bit of a weird season for Giddey.
Hey, Lil Bron, keep the family away.
For about a month following the news coming out, he was getting an outpouring of boos the second he would even look at a basketball while on the road. Not to mention being the butt of every joke on Twitter and TikTok, and considering the amount of time Giddey spends on TikTok, he definitely saw those jokes. And I think his teammates may have as well. Throughout the entire season, the Thunder always showed love to their local TV station, giving massive group interviews to Nick Gallo, with Jalen Williams even in this year's playoffs walking away from a post-game interview with TNT to join the group talking with Nick Gallo. And although Giddey was there for that interview for much of the regular season, he was absent in those team moments. Not to mention, during the summer, it had seemed like Chet and Giddey were side by side constantly, and then the news dropped,
Hey, Curry, keep the family away.
and suddenly it seemed like they weren't together as much anymore. This all could just be a coincidence, but if the team was actually starting to distance themselves from Giddey because of everything that happened off the court, it would definitely affect his play on the court. Of course, just with everything happening off the court, that probably would be enough to distract him from the season, but either way, it does seem like it's all irrelevant now. The Thunder have a stack of picks, a young team, and a closing window, as other teams are starting to build their own young cores. So it's time to make a real move. Again, as we said, a solid rebounder would be amazing. Funnily enough, the same Daniel Gafford that gave the Thunder hell on the boards was openly available for them before Dallas snagged him up. But now he's in Dallas and probably not willing to leave anytime soon. So it'll be interesting to see the player they're able to get in return. But a team that should be interested in Josh Giddey is the San Antonio Spurs. On a previous video, we have talked about the Spurs' desperate need to pair Wemby up with a reliable playmaker. And Giddey could maybe be that guy. Officially, he was never a point guard, but in his first 2 seasons, he would have moments of bringing the ball up and initiating the offense. And with this year's draft kinda looking like a dud, the Spurs could try and unload a first round pick in a 3-team trade to try and get Giddey, because why not, really? The other spot Giddey could be sent to is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Again, we cannot overstate how badly the Thunder need size, and the Cavs do have size. And it seems like Evan Mobley sees a lot more success without Jared Allen in the lineup. Allen has had an amazing season, but Mobley could turn out to be a truly special player. So the Thunder could look to the Cavs and try and pry Jared Allen loose with Giddey and a couple of those many draft picks they've saved up. Whatever happens, the Thunder should be very proud of the season that they've had, quickly rebuilding after the departure of Westbrook and KD and finding themselves in the second round already. But as we said, the Thunder aren't the only young team on the rise. We're currently witnessing a 22-year-old Anthony Edwards carry the Timberwolves to the conference finals, as well as a second-year Paolo Banchero leading his Orlando Magic team to the playoffs while averaging 27, 8, and 4 in their series against the Cavs. So although the Thunder have made massive strides, they shouldn't rest on their laurels and let their foot off the gas one bit. If you made it this far, give the video a like. While you're down there, you might as well just subscribe and let us know in the comments what you think about OKC and Josh Giddey. And as for that, we'll see you next week for the upload.